Hello everyone, and welcome back to another YouTube video. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys my 5,000th game on chess.com. This game was played on August 30th between me and my friend Other Count, who was about 90 rapid elo higher than me. He had the white pieces, I had the black pieces, and this game lasted 93 moves and starts with d4. And in response to d4, I have two main options. I could choose knight f6, which is what I usually play, but I actually decided to play the other option, d5. This move is pretty solid also, but I'm a bit more comfortable with knight f6, and I don't exactly remember why I chose this move, but I mean, it's on the board. So after this move, my friend played knight c3, and this move is pretty solid. I expected him to actually play a queen's gambit here, though. This seems to be the most popular continuation, but he instead just decides to play knight c3, and in response I play knight f6, adding an extra defender to this pawn, and after bishop here, I simply play e6, and the idea of e6 is pretty simple. If he takes this piece right here, I will simply recapture with the queen, and overall this will be pretty solid for me. But instead, he obviously chooses not to take the knight because he wants to keep his bishop on the board, and after takes, he takes back, and if I were to take this knight, this would be a huge blunder because I would simply lose my queen on the spot, and even after recapturing, even though I have two extra pieces, he has an extra queen, and I do not have castling rights, and I will probably lose this game. So instead, I play bishop e7, and I added a defender, and after he plays bishop x, and I play bishop x, he actually does not immediately take back, but instead, he plays c3. The idea of this, I guess, is just to continue developing, but I decide to castle. Now, the reason I don't save my bishop and have the bishop pair is because there's no real reason for me to have the bishop pair in this situation, as my bishop is going to be pretty bad, so I just decide to castle. In this position, he decides to play knight f3, and after I play b6, bishop d3, bishop b7, and h4, I decide to play knight d7, and now I have most of my pieces developed. As you can see, all the pieces are kind of out. And if he decides to take my bishop now, I will probably recapture with the knight, but he decides to play h5, and this move is kind of an inaccuracy, but overall it's a fine move, and I decide to play h6, which is considered a mistake, but this move, in my opinion, makes the most sense because there's no real reason to allow my opponent to play h6, as it forces me to push this pawn up, and he might recapture, and if I capture back, then this is going to, there's going to be this very weak diagonal here that I'll have to deal with, and overall, it's going to be quite annoying to deal with in the position. So, after this, my opponent decides to play queen c2, and I respond with c5, a pretty nice move in my opinion, and my opponent decides to simply castle. Now, in this situation, I play cxd4, a pretty nice move, and the reason this move is nice is because if my opponent does not take the bishop, or actually just simply decides to take this pawn right here, this is actually a huge blunder. And the reason this is a blunder is because after bishop takes and pawn takes bishop, then there is bishop takes knight, and after bishop here, there is rook c8, and this is really good. The engine is saying you should simply take, but if something like bishop here happens, then there is simply knight b8. There's also queen c7 in this situation, but overall this is going to be completely winning because if the bishop moves, you lose the queen, and if the bishop does not move, you lose the bishop. So obviously my opponent does not fall for that and simply takes this bishop, and after I capture back, he simply captures this pawn, and overall the position is technically slightly better for me, but overall this is probably still about equal. Now I play rook c8, and after king b1, a nice move to just step off of this diagonal, I simply play queen c7, and the reason I'm not capturing this pawn right now is because I'm a little bit afraid of ideas with like rook g1, and I just feel like this is going to end up being pretty annoying to deal with, and actually I was kind of right in my assumptions, but there is a certain point where I should take the pawn, which I actually did not, and it's right here. And I guess the reason I should take this pawn is because after I take, and if they were to play something like rook here, then I would simply have bishop here, and I'd be able to trade off some pieces. And I guess after all of these trades, they're even saying rook takes, but after all of these trades, I think my position is like solid enough to the point where, it's simplified enough to the point where the extra, this like attack is actually not much, and it's able to be stopped in time. But I do not play that. Instead, I play bishop e4 a little bit too early, and after bishop here, we trade off the bishops, and the position is slowly but surely forming into an endgame. Now after I play rook fd8, I threaten to play this e5 move right here. Of course, my opponent stops that with queen h3. This move is considered a mistake. I don't fully see why, but I decide to play queen b7 with the idea to play knight here, and if queen f3, I have plans to simply trade off the queens, and I feel like my position will end up being slightly better there, or at least drawing. Now in this position, my opponent plays king a1, and after knight e4, he simply plays queen f3, the best move, and after knight c5, we trade off the queens, and we're pretty much in an endgame by this point. After rook de1, I play knight c5. The idea is to threaten to play this move, and have like a nice knight here, and I feel like my position will end up being quite a bit better. And after rook h3, I play f6, a pretty nice move. If you take this pawn, and I take, if you take this pawn, then it's a huge blunder because I simply take, and after takes, you play rook d1 checkmate, and obviously checkmate's completely winning. And if you don't fall for that, then you're simply just down a knight. So obviously you can't take this pawn here, and that's not what happens in the game. We simply get b4, and this is considered a mistake, but then here I play a really horrible blunder. I play e5, and this move is actually completely losing, and the reason it is completely losing is because of knight f5, and the reason this is completely winning is because 1, my knight is hanging, and 2, knight e7 is being threatened by my opponent, and there is no way to stop both threats. If I were to play something like knight here, then my opponent would actually have the brilliant rook takes d3, and this move is really nice because after takes, there is knight here, and after like king here or something, actually they're saying king here, but it doesn't really matter, there is knight here, and even if I try to trap this knight, there is actually, I think, this move right here? I'm trying to remember. I think it's this move, and after, if the king goes down here, tries to trap the knight, then there is simply c5 in this position, and even if I take and takes, and then I go here, the knight is able to escape just in time, and, white is going to be simply up an entire piece, and completely winning. But luckily for me, my opponent did not find that, and instead simply took my knight with this pawn, and after takes, we get a bunch of trades, and the position is completely equal because there are 3 pawns on this side, 3 pawns on this side, 1 pawn on this side, 1 pawn on this side, and obviously there's just 2 rooks, and then of course there's the king, so it's just completely equal. But overall, this endgame is technically slightly better for me. I guess it's because my placement of pieces is a little bit better, but I decided to play rook cd8, stacking the rooks, and I should have played this rook move right here. This would have been a little bit better for me, but I did not play that. I just played rook cd8, and after king b1, I play b5, and I try to make it to where this pawn can hopefully help me in a way, but also I just don't want to lose this pawn, and I want to try to go after this h-pawn right here. So after I play b5, my opponent plays king c2. It's a pretty solid move because it prevents me from playing stuff like rook d2, and after that, I simply play rook c4, and after king b3, I play rook dd4, threatening this check right here, and potential ideas. I'm trying to remember what my ideas were, but I can't fully remember them. But my opponent plays a3, preventing all of that, and after rook g4, I threaten a pawn, they have to move it, and then I play rook g5, and I threaten this h-pawn right here. So my opponent plays rook e8 check, I simply move to h7, the best move, because there's no reason to put my king out in the open. And after this, my opponent plays rook b8, a pretty nice move, because after I play rook cc5, my opponent plays king b4. Now the reason this move is good is because if I were to take this pawn right here, and after they take back and I take, then they would simply be able to take this, and if I make the really big blunder of simply taking this rook, I am dead lost, because after takes, there is no way to stop this pawn in time. There are 6 moves away, and my king is like 8 moves away from stopping this pawn, so there's just no chance. And if I were to play something like rook here, then there is simply rook f5, and even though this position is still drawn, it would be very, very hard to hold the draw here, and I'd probably end up losing this game. So instead of that, I end up playing rook c4 check, and this move forces the king to go somewhere. If the king simply slides to a6, then this is completely losing because of rook a4 check, and after the king moves, I simply take this pawn, and this is a completely winning endgame because this pawn is going to be super powerful, and I mean, if I can't win this, then that's very unfortunate for me, but I probably would be able to win this. So my opponent plays the great move king b3, and I simply play rook c1 check, or not check, sorry, rook c1. The idea is to potentially maybe throw in a check or just go to f1 and try to cause some damage. After this, my opponent plays rook d8, and this is a pretty solid move, just taking the open file. But I actually feel like this is a mistake because I play rook c5, and I go after this pawn, but I actually do miss the critical king b4 here, which my opponent also misses. This move would be the best move because if I were to take this pawn, after takes rook b8, there's no way to stop my opponent from winning this back. And after rook here takes, this pawn is most likely going to push its way down the board. And this is going to end up being a draw, even though it's like a 1-on-3 and I'm just up a pawn overall. This pawn is just too powerful. So this will end up being a draw. But my opponent plays the wrong move here and actually plays a4. And this is a really big blunder because after takes, I simply pick up this pawn and I am up a pawn in a completely winning endgame. But I play the wrong move here, rook f5. I was supposed to play rook c5 in this position. And the reason I was supposed to play rook c5 is because this simply cuts the king off. And eventually my king is going to march up, pick up some pawns, and as long as I can preserve one or two of these pawns, I should win the game. And yeah, I mean, I'm really disappointed I missed this move. In the future, hopefully I will be able to see that, but instead I play rook f5, threatening this pawn, and after he defends it, I play a really bad move here, rook f3, and this move I thought was really good because it looks like it stops these two pawns and allows my king to slowly march up the board. The reason this is so bad is because it allows the king to simply go in and defend these pawns. But my opponent actually makes one mistake here that costs the game, king c4. And the reason king c4 is so bad is because the king is kind of cut off from its own pawns, and it's going to be very hard for the king to come in. And after I play g5, I am threatening to play like g4 or something, or actually maybe not g4 just yet, but I am threatening to bring my king in, and it's going to be very, very hard to stop me, and I should be able to win this game. And after king d4, king g6, king e4, and rook a3, after they play g4, I play this really nice h5 move. And after takes, it's a 2-on-1, but this one pawn is very weak, and I should be able to win this game. And after king f5, I play rook f3 check. And this move forces the king to go to the e-file. And after they go to the e-file, I simply play g4, defending this pawn. And after rook d5, I play the very, very unfortunate mistake here, king h4, costing the game. And the reason this move is so bad is because I was supposed to play king g6 here, and king g6 stops rook f5 from happening. And if I would have played this move, there's like a 99% chance I would have won this game. I actually played this against the engine, and I was able to win this with the black pieces. So, yeah, very unfortunate mistake by me. And I played king h4 here, and this allowed my opponent to play rook f5. And this kind of stops all my plans, because if I take this, after takes, and like king here, takes, king here, king here, king here, you can simply play king h5 or king like f5. Just you have to hold on to attacking this pawn, and there is no way to hold on to the pawn. And I mean, this game is just a draw because obviously king versus king is a draw. So yeah, very unfortunate mistake by me. And after rook a3, I actually do decide to flag my opponent. Some people do disagree with flagging, but I feel like that you should go to every measure possible to try to win a game. So I continue to try to fight for a win. Of course, my opponent is very low on the clock, but luckily for him, he's actually like 1900 bullet, which is not that much lower than me, so he is able to hold this form pretty well. And eventually, I make this slight mistake here, and I allow him to take. And after this, I lose a pawn, but this is a book draw, and I am able to hold this draw. As you can see, I do want to make a video on this at some point on how this is a draw. But yeah, this game is going to end in a draw by stalemate because, I mean, there's no way for him to progress in the position. And yeah, that's how this game ends. It took 93 moves. And yeah, this game was really fun. And as you can see on the clock, I had 33 seconds remaining. He had 21 seconds remaining. And by accuracy, he played at an 87.6% accuracy. And I played at an 88.3% accuracy. So this game was obviously pretty nice because, I mean, it's my 5,000th game. There were obviously some mistakes, as you could see. The first big mistake was, of course, this move. And yeah, I mean, this move simply blunders the whole game away. I was lucky that he couldn't find that move. The second big mistake I made was this rook move right here, because the king was gonna get in and most likely solidify the position and stop me from winning the game. And then the third mistake, of course, was this king h4 move. And yeah, I mean, lots of mistakes happened during this game, but, you know, at least it ended peacefully in a draw, and I didn't end up losing the game. So, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and goodbye!